Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. PMDD partners, today we are going to be going deep. We're going to be talking about the N-word, not that N-word. We're talking about narcissist. And I know that this has been talked about so much on social media lately. It's been swirling around, and I have been a victim of narcissism, and I have so many private clients that have as well. And what happens is when you have PMDD and you mix narcissism with PMDD, it literally feels like you are being tortured. And I really wanted to give you the tools and talk to you about this today because narcissism, dealing with a narcissist already is overwhelming, is traumatic. And a lot of times when I'm having to talk to private clients on our beginning sessions, we're having to heal a lot of the damage that has been done from being in a relationship with a narcissist because it has such a lasting effect on you. And so when you're in PMDD and you're already overthinking and you're already going through so much spinning in your mind, the narcissism tends to add on to that. So let's just first define the 5 signs of that your partner is a narcissist, that your partner is a narcissist. And the first sign that your partner, your PMDD partner is a narcissist is they have an excessive need for self-importance. So a narcissistic PMDD partner may constantly exaggerate their achievements. The ego is very high. They may talk about all of these things that they've accomplished. They really desire for other people to admire them or to say how amazing they are. They have this deep need for external validation and to feel like they are pretty much the most important thing. I remember going through my journey with a narcissist, and I remember them saying a comment to me that I just thought was very, troubling because I believe in God. And they said a comment that said, I just want you to love me like you love God, in a sense of, reverencing and idolizing them on the same level that I would God. And I remember thinking like, that's not really a thing, but I think a lot of times we may brush off a lot of these characteristics and not really understand how damaging they could really be. I know for me, that was the case. There was a lot of signs that I saw and I just brushed it off because there were so many other amazing qualities that I just felt like maybe that was a fluke. Like maybe he just wanted me to really adore him, right? Like maybe he just wanted me to really love him. And that was like a thing. And he was just making these comments. But the next sign that your PMDD partner is a narcissist or has narcissistic tendencies is the constant need for admiration. So it's one thing to really enjoy being adored by your PMDD partner. I do that. I love being adored. Like my partner says, I adore you, or I admire you, or good job on that. I enjoy that. But for a narcissist, they have this constant need for admiration. They seek excessive praise and validation, and they require constant attention. And if they don't get it, they begin to feel underappreciated and almost demand it, because they will shift their mood and shape shift themselves until you give them what it is that they're wanting. So it's almost like it's not an option. Whereas I would really enjoy it if my PMDD partner says like he admires me or good job, but if he didn't, like I can still sustain myself. For a narcissist, it's not an option. You either give them that praise, that validation, or they're going to make your life a living hell, because they're going to be complaining, they're going to be pouting, they're going to be passive aggressive, they're going to be moody, they're going to be doing all of these things that's making you feel like you're being a bad partner and you're doing a bad job because you're not giving them that excessive validation. When I say excessive, I mean continuous validation, not just one time you're doing a good job. It needs to be an ongoing thing in order for them to be satisfied. And it's very short-lived, meaning you could have done it in the morning and by the afternoon they're needing more. And so the next way that your PMDD partner will show signs of being a narcissist is a lack of empathy. They could care less about what's going on with you. So think about this when you're in PMDD and you're saying, I have this symptom and I have this symptom and I have this. I did this. I was like, I'm doing my best. I have this. I have anxiety. I have depression. I'm feeling fatigue. None of that mattered if their needs weren't met. So they didn't care what I had going on. They didn't care that I was suffering to even show up in the way that I was. It didn't matter to them, because that lack of empathy, it means they didn't care about my feelings or what I was going through in PMDD. They just dismissed them and said I was the problem because I wasn't providing them with what it is that they needed. And so they blamed PMDD and they blamed me for having PMDD. They're like, oh, if you didn't have PMDD, I would be able to get my needs met pretty much. And I was like, well, newsflash, I didn't ask for this. Like, I don't want this. I don't want to not meet your needs. But when you have a narcissist, they don't care the impact of saying things that make you feel bad about having something that you genuinely don't want to have. If you've ever been in that place with your partner where they're really talking to you very harshly about the fact that you have PMDD symptoms, but you don't want to have PMDD symptoms. So it's like, wait, how are you upset with me over having something that I genuinely don't want to have? I'm not choosing this. And I remember saying that so many times to that PMDD partner that was a narcissist. I kept saying, I'm not choosing this. And then the next way that, is a sign that your PMDD partner is either a narcissist or they have narcissistic tendencies, and that is they have a difficulty maintaining relationships. So a lot of times with the narcissist, they're very charming, they're very agreeable in the beginning. A lot of people like them, they have a lot of friends, all of these things. But when it comes to maintaining long-term, healthy, intentional relationships, it's very hard for them. And a lot of times it's because they have that lack of consideration for others. And some of them can turn it on and turn it off. And what that means is they can pretend that they really care about you and they really care about what's going on, but they really don't, because as soon as their needs aren't met, then it pretty much doesn't matter what you have going on. Meaning, if their needs are met, they'll care about what you have going on. They'll be like, oh, do you need this? Do you need that? Like, how are you doing with this? But if they're not getting the validation, the attention, the admiration, those are the three key things that a narcissist needs to survive: admiration, validation, and attention. When you take those three things away, all of a sudden the gloves come out, because all of a sudden you're the enemy, because you're not giving them the thing that they fuel off of. They're fueled by those things. And when you have PMDD, and I know for me, the issue was that I have an avoidant attachment style when I go into PMDD. So a lot of times when I'm suffering, I may take space and take time. And that was seen as a personal attack. Because for a narcissist, you taking space and time for yourself to deal with your own emotions is not a thing. They do not allow you to take that space and time to deal with your emotions because it's all about them and meeting their needs and making sure that they have what it is that they need and at whatever cost that it takes. So you can say, oh, I just need some space and time to deal. I remember I said that. I said, I just need some space and time to deal with my own emotions. And I got put through living hell because that denied them of the things that they needed, which was the attention, the validation, and the adoration. And it wasn't that I was saying that I was never going to be able to provide that for them. It was just, I need a moment. But because I took that moment, it's almost like you're being punished for putting up boundaries that are genuinely healthy for you, your mental health for when you're dealing with PMDD. So when you're going into dealing with a narcissist, when you have PMDD, your coping mechanisms are going to be their enemy. If you have a coping mechanism for PMDD that stops them from getting those three things that I said they need, that adoration, that validation, and that attention, that is going to be the enemy. They're going to start picking apart your coping mechanism because it is preventing them from getting that attention that they need. They're going to say, I don't want you to do, like for me, it was my morning routine. And they didn't want me to do my morning routine because that meant that they weren't going to be able to have attention during that time. They didn't want me to do my work because, and they put me in a situation where I would be so stressed out to where I couldn't work because they wanted me to give them that attention. The narcissist doesn't care about anything else that you have going on. So I was complaining and saying, I have this going on, I have this, and I need to be in a good mindset to do this and this and this. And they didn't care. All they cared about was I wasn't providing them with those three things that they needed. And so I'm going to ask you a question. And it's really going to help you. And it's really helped a lot of my private clients because what we're going to talk about, we're not just talking about how to identify the narcissist today. We have a bonus because we're talking about asking yourself, are you being mind controlled by a narcissist? Because I think this is the most damaging thing I have ever experienced. I literally thought I was going crazy at one point. I literally thought I was losing my marbles because everything is already very confusing in PMDD, but when I was dealing with this narcissist, nothing made sense. Like everything, I was trying to calculate things. I'm like, am I the wrong person or are they being wrong? Like it was so confusing because they were mind altering. They were controlling my mind. And we talked about earlier episodes about overthinking. So if you imagine combining overthinking with a narcissist, you're in line for a roller coaster, an emotional roller coaster. And a narcissist is very dangerous, not only to your health, but for your self-esteem and for your brain. So when I'm talking about your health, is my body started to react to the narcissist abuse, meaning I had so much stress, my cortisol levels were so high, my cycle was all over the place, my adrenals were all over the place. I could barely sleep. I was waking up with anxiety. And these were things that I was associating with PMDD symptoms. I was thinking, oh, these are my PMDD symptoms. I'm having these symptoms because I'm in PMDD. No, I was having those symptoms because I was in a relationship with a narcissist. And it was causing me to always be on high alert and to always feel like I was out of control over what was going on. And everything that was going on in my world had to do with this person and what they said and how they thought things should be and what they thought I should be doing better. And all of it was just so that they can get the attention that they wanted. But it's almost like no matter what I did, it was never enough. So that's one of the biggest signs that I would say that you genuinely feel like you're putting forth so much effort, but it's never enough, meaning nothing you do is enough or it's very short-lived. Meaning you give them the attention they want, you put aside all of your desires, all of the things that you want to be there for them, and then they're happy for a little bit, but then there's always like squeezing that tube of toothpaste. They're always wanting more. It's never really enough. So they want you to give everything you have to give. So you may give financially, which I did. You may give mentally, you may give physically, you may give all of these different ways, and they'll find a way to take from all of these different tanks that you have emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually, all these things, and in order to keep you doing that, they will start to love bomb you, meaning when you're depleting yourself, when you're feeling exhausted, depleted, they'll begin to tell you how amazing you are. I love you so much. You're so amazing. All of these things, because that's the state that they want to keep you in. So the love bombing is to keep you in that state of giving them exactly what they need, which is that attention, that validation, and that adoration, regardless of what that feels like to you or what that looks like. So it puts you in this place where you're all of a sudden craving that abuse. You're craving neglecting yourself because you're wanting to just know that you're doing a good job. You're wanting to know that you're doing enough. And when you're in that place, you calm down a little bit. But as soon as you let up a little bit and you try to put up a boundary, or you try to say, hey, I need to do this for myself, so I can't do this for you, then all of a sudden they're back to you're the worst thing ever. So when I was dealing with a narcissist and I was in PMDD, I would go from 1 minute I was a piece of crap, and then the next minute I was the best thing in the world, and they loved and adored me so much. And I remember being so confused because I was like, well, which one am I? Because PMDD already makes you feel like your self-esteem is bad. So I began to believe the negative things that my PMDD partner was saying at the time, because I began to think, oh, if they're saying these negative things about me, like it must be true because I'm already feeling negative about myself. So I was putting myself in this place where my self-esteem, where I was very confident, I was very sure of myself, all of these things. And then all of a sudden, that was all gone because I was second guessing everything that I was doing. I was second guessing my character. I was like, what kind of person are you that you would leave a person when they needed you the most? Because that was the story that was being told to me. They were like, if you really loved me, if you have a PMDD partner that is saying this to you, then they may have a narcissistic tendency. When they're making comments that says, if you really loved me, you would do this. Like that's a very narcissistic mindset, because you're putting a condition on how the individual feels about you. Meaning, if I love you, I would do this for you. But that doesn't mean that that's true for me. Meaning, if I love you, I may do these things and create boundaries that allow me to be sane myself, and for it to be healthy. But when you put conditions on, for example, when I would do things like my morning routine, where I would get up and I would be pouring into myself mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, so I can do all the things that I do. And that PMDD partner was like, if you loved me, you would give me attention first thing in the morning and not go straight into your morning routine. So all of a sudden, I was now making a choice between doing something that I know gave me self-esteem and confidence, and doing something that was going to please my PMDD partner, who was telling me that if I did my morning routine before I poured into them, like I was a bad person. So now it turned something that was completely healthy for me into something that was completely toxic. And I remember thinking to myself, how can they have an issue when I'm not even with other people, like I'm just with myself. But it didn't matter, because you have to remember, the narcissist is very self-centered. They only care about themselves. They feel like they need to get their needs met by any means possible. So they'll do it by narcissistic tendencies, or by love bombing. And the next way that the narcissist can be dangerous to you is because it affects your brain. Your brain, your subconscious mind doesn't know what's true and not and what's not true. So if you're starting to fear having these conversations with your PMDD partner because you're feeling horrible, your PMDD brain doesn't know if this is a general threat. And being in that place where your brain is trying to fight off PMDD and a narcissist, it's almost like the narcissist wins, because there's so many other symptoms that are going on, that it almost makes you feel like, oh my goodness, maybe this is true, right? Like maybe Maybe, what the narcissist is saying is true. And so now that we know that the narcissist doesn't care about anything other than themselves, controlling you is part of the game. It's part of what they do. And so when I say mind control, what that means is brainwashing and persuading you to do what it is that they need. So the basic definition of mind control is brainwashing and persuasion that is done to take over a PMDD partner's mind. It's meant to take over your mind to cause you to instinctively do the things that are going to be most beneficial for the narcissist, for the PMDD partner that's a narcissist. Manipulation tactics, they could even have called you manipulative. I remember that was one of the things that my ex PMDD partner did. They said, "Oh, you're so manipulative. You're a narcissist." They'll start to call you out on the things that they're actually doing, to the fact that you all of a sudden you think that you're the bad person. You think that you're the bad guy, and they become the victim. And they're skilled at this because they've done this in multiple iterations of their lives. They've not just done it in relationships, within intimate relationships. They've done it at work. They've done it with children. This is how they operate. And so a big part of the mind control is the coercive persuasion. This is when they use different types of manipulation techniques to do their bidding. So they'll put the victim, aka you, under extreme levels of stress and anxiety, meaning they'll cause a lot of drama in your relationship and make you feel like you're the problem. They'll say to you things like, "Oh, you're so dramatic." And they'll also use your PMDD as saying, "Oh, PMDD must be making you do this. You must be in PMDD," where a lot of times they're the ones exuding the dramatic behavior, but they're saying because of your PMDD that you must be the problem. So it's almost like you're finding yourself in the middle of this drama, and you're just assuming that it must be PMDD because PMDD causes all of this drama. So of course I'm the problem. They will make you think that you're the problem because you have PMDD. They're going to use your disorder to say that you're the problem in the relationship. When I was in that relationship with the narcissist, they said, "Oh, you and your PMDD, everything that's wrong with this relationship is your fault." There's an extreme lack of accountability, meaning they're not willing to take any accountability for any of the issues that are going on in your relationship. Everything is you, everything's your PMDD. If you could just get it right. And by get it right, it is give them that attention, that validation, and that adoration. And so a lot of narcissists in the beginning, they try to use subtle controls. So you don't even realize you're doing what they want. Meaning one of the basic things that was used on me and a lot of my private clients is the love bombing. Meaning they are continuously saying, "I love you, I love you, I love you," so that they can hear it in return. So it wasn't genuinely that they were just saying that they loved me or they loved my private clients. They were using it to train you to tell them on repeat that you love them, you adore them, all of these things. They were using that technique to train you to do what it is that they really wanted. And they knew that they had to be subtle in the beginning because they didn't want to be so obvious about it to where they came off making demands. So narcissists are very, they're very intentional, but they're very intelligent, meaning they've done this before. But it's almost that if you've been doing what the narcissist wants, as soon as you stop, that's when you're going to begin to see. That's when you're going to begin to see the real them come out, as soon as you take away that behavior that they've trained you to do. So narcissists use trigger phrases to control you. So some common phrases that, they can use to really cause you to feel like they're disappointed in you is, "Oh, you used to do this, or you used to do that," or they may remind you of how they're telling you that you're supposed to think, how you're supposed to be, what you used to do, right? And so you may begin to think, well, I thought I was still doing that, or I thought I'm doing the best that I can because I'm in PMDD. But they'll make you feel bad about yourself and about how you're showing up in PMDD because they're gonna make it seem like everything was great when you used to do this. Everything was great when you used to say this, but you're no longer doing it anymore. So I guess this is just where they are. I guess this is where we are in our relationship because you're not doing these things anymore. And when you have PMDD and your self-esteem is already lacking a lot of times because you're feeling bad about being in PMDD, it's really going to cause you a lot of damage for that individual to take what you're not able to do and to throw it in your face and make it seem like it's intentional. You can almost burn yourself out by trying to do the things that they want you to do because you're feeling like if I could just force myself to be more intimate, if I can force myself to be more loving and say more loving things, maybe I'll be a good PMDD partner. So that's a sign that they're using the subtle control. So this is where they're not really saying it to you outright. They're just saying, when you used to do this, like we were fine. So then you begin to overthink it and feel like, well, I need to go back and do that. I need to go back and do that. Like they're not telling you you need to over and over again. They know that as long as they make that little comment, you're going to start overthinking it on your own. They may send you pictures of how you used to be happy in the relationship before, but now look at you. And the next thing, these are signs that you're being mind controlled by a narcissist because they're so good at hiding their genuine nature. So, number one, like we talked about earlier, the narcissist, and I want you to remember this, they don't really care about your feelings or your pain. If you notice that you've been telling your PMDD partner about your symptoms and all these things, and they seem disinterested, all they're talking about is how they are affected by your pain. They're not really caring about what you're going through. They're just talking about how PMDD is such a burden for them. They don't care about the fact that you have PMDD. They don't care about your discomfort. They don't care about your pain. And so the narcissist will use a variety of emotional and other manipulative techniques to get you to do things a certain way. So once they figure out that you're willing, right? Like I told you before, they start off being subtle. Once they figure out that you're willing to do things a certain way, they're going to try to manipulate you to continue on that pattern of doing it because it's feeding their narcissistic nature. It's feeding what it is that they want: attention, validation, adoration. I keep saying that again and again because I want you to understand that that's the focal point for the narcissist. And so the narcissist is going to use flattery and love bombing to affect you. This could be with gifts. The ex that I was with, that was my PMDD partner, that was a narcissist, always bought me gifts, and I mean meaningful gifts, gifts that mean they pay very close attention because they want whatever that they do to manipulate you to have meaning behind it, because then it's going to be harder for you to walk away from it. So in turn, after they're love bombing you and giving you gifts, another thing that they can do to affect your mind is aggression and anger to try to control you, right? So they can start yelling at you, name calling you, and they can do it in times when you're in PMDD, and they'll make it seem like, oh, they're reacting that way to you, to how you're acting in PMDD. This is one of the biggest things that I've seen with my private clients is they're making it seem that this is not their true nature. They're only being this way because of you, how you are in PMDD. Meaning because you shut down in PMDD, now I'm yelling at you, I'm cursing at you, I'm treating you horribly. So the narcissist will try to create chaos and uncertainty in your life. If you have chaos and confusion on a consistent basis, then that's a sign that you're with a narcissist because you're living your life in constant fear. You don't know what to expect next. The narcissist gives more control to this because they decide how things are handled. Things can be calm when they want them to be calm. Things can be chaotic when they want them to be chaotic. So that means you're left walking on eggshells. You're not knowing if they're going to be pleased or they're not going to be pleased. And these particular times with my ex, I was literally fearing the next interaction with them because I didn't know what it was going to look like. I didn't know what the interaction was going to look like because it always ended up so dramatic. And every single time it would end up dramatic, there was a lot of gaslighting and shifting the blame to me and saying that I was the problem because I had PMDD. You're so dramatic. You're always doing this. You're always doing that. And I remember thinking, what did I do? So I remember one of the things that I struggled with earlier in my journey was PMDD rage. And this particular partner would cause me to have a lot of PMDD rage, obviously, because I was being mind controlled. And I remember them telling me that the reason why we had so much drama going on in our PMDD relationship was because of my rage. So I made it a point to not react to the rage and the anger. And then I said, okay, I'm going to go through this phase. And I really, really use the tools that I teach you and I really worked on myself. But what happened was I was no longer utilizing PMDD rage. I was no longer exuding that behavior, but the chaos and the confusion was still there. So I was like, wait a minute, then it can't be me because I'm not doing those same things that I was doing before. Whereas before it was like, you're the reason, the gaslighting, saying that things are not really how they are. Like a lot of times it was like, oh, when we would go through the PMDD monthly breakups, they would be like, you broke up with me. And I'm like, no, you said that we were going to break up. Like it was a situation where you're starting to second guess, like, did I say it? No, I'm pretty sure you said it. Like I genuinely felt like I was losing my mind because of the mind altering manipulation that was going on by the narcissist. They were telling me things that I was believing, but it was in a sense of they weren't based off of facts. It was just what they wanted me to believe. They wanted me to believe that I was the problem. And so if any of this sounds familiar to you, if any of this sounds like, yeah, Dr. Rose, I'm going through this, I'm going to give you the tools of how to escape this mind control from narcissists. And if this is something that you know that you need help with, and if you know that you need the signs, I am going to create this workbook so that you can have the signs in print to be able to view and say, okay, what is going on with this? And the link is going to be in the show notes, but I want you to be able to recognize if you're being mind controlled by a narcissist because it's a very abusive and traumatic journey to go on, especially when you have PMDD. It's really not unfair for anyone, but if you have PMDD, it's explicitly traumatic, meaning it can cause you to go down a rabbit hole that it's going to take you a long time to dig out of. So if this is something that you know that you need help with, make sure that you go and book my stress free with PMDD partners package, and we can genuinely go in depth with what your experience was because it's different for everyone. You know, narcissists, they pay very close attention to the details of your life and they start to create narratives and stories. And getting out of it is really, really hard when you're in PMDD because you start to think you're the problem. So then when you find the strength to leave, when you come out of PMDD and you're feeling good, you're like, maybe it was just me. Maybe it wasn't PMDD. Maybe it wasn't that they were a narcissist. Maybe it was just me. Maybe I just need to go back because I'm going to have this problem with every PMDD partner because I have PMDD. And a lot of times it's not because you have PMDD, it's because you're in a relationship with a narcissist. And so go to my website, www.inlovewithpmdd.com, book those stress-free with PMDD partners packages where we can meet and start to heal your narcissistic journey because it takes a while. I remember I was in that pattern of going back and going back and going back because I was so confused because I was like, it's not me. I was saying it's them, but then I was like, no, 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 it's me. And I would get wrapped back into it. And so I'm going to give you some tools on how to escape the narcissistic mind control when you're having PMDD. But it is a process. So it's not a one-stop shop. And so the first thing about an intervention is to really think about, did any of this resonate with you? I remember the first time I heard about a narcissist, and I had heard that word on social media so much. I'm like, it was like one of those things where I felt like it was an overused psychology term until I really listened and understood what it meant. And I'm like, wait, like this is very common. I've heard a lot about this in my private sessions. The fact that someone would a narcissist would target someone with PMDD was sickening to me. That's why I'm doing this episode, because I thought that, when you have PMDD, you're already at a disadvantage because you already second guess yourself and your thoughts and your mind and what you can remember. So it makes it easier for a narcissist to come in and just pounce on you and subtly, like I said, they subtly will control you. And then all of a sudden, it's more and more and more until you feel like you're literally losing your ever loving mind. And you'll think that you're losing your mind because of PMDD, and it'll really be because of your PMDD partner who is a narcissist. And so avoiding this narcissist physically, it's not going to be enough. So in this instance, if you're living with one and you're saying, oh, I'm just going to move out, I'm going to tell you what has worked with a lot of my private clients. And the only thing that I've seen that has worked, and that is a no contact rule. Because even if the PMDD partner that's a narcissist is physically not around you, they will use technology for their advantage. They're going to text you, they're going to email you, they're going to have other friends and family that know them do that. They are going to use every form of communication to get into your mind, because you have to remember they planted that seed. So just imagine that they have a joystick, like an old school joystick, like a video game, to your brain. So they know how to get you to turn it back on. They know how to get you to lean back in. A lot of times you may find yourself running back to them, and then you'll be like, what's wrong with me? Like, I know that I was suffering in this situation, but I keep going back. I keep thinking that, oh, I just need to make this relationship work. And it's just really hard because I have PMDD, and PMDD relationships are hard. There's a big difference between navigating and working through a PMDD relationship and working through a PMDD relationship with a narcissist. And if you need help with distinguishing between the two, DM me on Instagram, email me, rose@inlovewithpmdd.com. I will be able to, here's what I can do for you. And this has to be on an individual basis. I can let you know if your PMDD partner has narcissistic tendencies, which doesn't necessarily mean that they are a narcissist, but it means that they have the tendencies which can be worked through. Number two, I can let you know if they're a narcissist, right? And I can give you the steps on what to do with that. Number three, I can give you the awareness of maybe this is just PMDD that's making you feel like your PMDD partner is a narcissist because you think negatively about them every month in PMDD. That's the biggest one with my private clients, is they're like, is my partner a narcissist, or do I just have PMDD, and I'm looking at them that way? But this has to be on an individual basis. And if that's something that you need help with, go to my website, book a session, book the month sessions, and we can work on that. But I want you to remember that when you're going through this, if this is something that you've genuinely been going through, your self-esteem and your confidence has been shattered. And it's going to take time for you to heal and recover. Your ability to make decisions is going to be affected, meaning before, if you were able to just make decisions about doing things very easily, that's not going to be a thing anymore, because now you're going to get into that place of second guessing everything. Your identity, who you are as a person, it practically disappears under the narcissist's control and desires, meaning you only exist at this point to please them, and you don't even know it. You don't even know it. And a lot of times, the reason why I say that I want you to really work with me to heal it is because what I've seen is PMDD partners go from one narcissist to another. So we also need to work on why you're attracting a narcissist in the first place. Because it's one thing to get away from one, but then you may find yourself in the same situation, and then we have a narcissistic pattern. So we have to get rid of that pattern by understanding what attracted the narcissist to you, or what attracted you to the narcissist, or both. But I want you to know that the mind control that a narcissist can have over you, the power that they can have over your mind, is overwhelming. They're capable of convincing you of anything and even making you doubt your own memory. And I know that a lot of times when you have PMDD, we already have issues with our memory, but the narcissist is going to make you second guess everything. So I want you to just really, if any of this resonated with you, click the link in the show notes, get the workbook on this, book a private session, do whatever you need to do to get yourself out of the situation, because the longer you're in it, the harder it is to get out. That's what I've learned. You're instinctively going to feel that pull to go back because that has now become your comfort zone. You're instinctively going to feel like you're the problem because that's what they want you to think. I want to help you get out of this. And if this is something that you're suffering with, I want you to know that narcissism is a form of abuse and there is help for you. But when you're dealing with PMDD, you have to really handle it strategically. Like there's a different way to handle narcissist abuse when you have PMDD, because there's so many other areas that they can get into because you have PMDD. And I'm here to help you with that. We got this. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners Workbook. What this workbook can do is if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start Workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD range and all of these things so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship. So you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.